Let me just say, I don't give a shit about any of the data this next week. It could jolt the markets a little bit, but it's okay to be wrong. It's just not okay to stay wrong. So this election doesn't matter who wins. It's going to be contested. It's going to be drug out. The longer it is going to be violent.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I've only been awake since like 3 o'clock in the morning over here. You guys are on the other side of the country, I believe. And Trent, thank you for the nice introduction. That's a good way of saying that you are a dinosaur in the market. So thank you.
I do feel old. When we first met, I was like, man, I'm the young up and comer in the industry. Now I definitely feel like the dinosaur.
That makes me a fossil then, I guess. Yeah, we met years ago. I remember having lunch at I think it was Houston's, in somewhere in West Palm Beach, I believe.
Yeah, right here. Well, right here in Boca Raton, I think.
Was it Boca? Yeah. Yeah. It was. It just happened to be walking distance from my trading office there.
Nice.
And I remember meeting you for the first time. So yeah, it's been a long time. We've even met up here in my hometown of Scottsdale. So.
Nice. Well, welcome, Blake Morrow. For anybody that doesn't know, he is the CEO and co-founder of ForexAnalytix. He's been in the industry for over 15 years or 20 years. We're welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here and with you guys. And happy Friday. I'm just happy that it is Friday. Anyway, so.
How does it impact you? Going back to you living in Arizona, how does that impact like your trading schedule? Because typically you would see like most people live in New York or Chicago. How does it actually impact you on living in Arizona?
I get up at the 3 o'clock hour every day. So yeah, that's the biggest impact. Cause I mean, obviously I can work New York time, or if I really want to, really hurt myself, I can just, stay up all night and be a vampire and sleep during the day to trade the European hours. But really, I've learned to, over the last, I guess I've been here since 2011 when I moved my kids and my wife back here to be with their family so they could grow up with their family. I bit the bullet. And I don't mind. I'm a morning guy, but yeah, I get up at the 3 o'clock hour, but my day is usually over, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So where I, can settle down after New York closes. So I have just a little bit different schedule. The problem is that most normal people, they live a normal lifestyle. So if they want to have drinks or get dinner or do something after 8 o'clock, I'm usually the guy sleeping at the table. So it's a real impact.
I remember when I first traded coming out of college at Marquette Partners, they put me on the night shift. And so my schedule was midnight to noon every day because we traded the European, and similar. Like I was just dead by about 5 or 6 p.m. I was like out, crashed, like don't call me, and basically had no social life.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, but you learn, and people that you're friends with, you socialize with, they're very well aware. And I stick out like a sore thumb. I'm not, most of the people that are in the markets and do what I do, or, in some of the major city centers. So, people look at me and they're like, well, it's Friday night, Blake's going home early. You already know that already. And it's pretty commonplace, but yeah, I mean, I like it though. I'm a morning person, so it's, I'm good with it.
Nice. I know Davin has some questions, but before we get into those, can you just give a background? Because I think it's a really interesting story that you do have. And so I'd love to hear your background, how you started, and then what you're doing currently in the industry.
Sure. Well, I was actually in college, and I had a buddy that was a stockbroker, and this is back in 1990, thinking the date, it was 1995. 96, and he's like you should be a stockbroker. I'm like, I'm in college, I have no idea. And he's like, you got the gift of gab, you can sell, and that's what we do. It's basically what wealth managers do now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got my Series 7 and 63 at that time, and I started at this brokerage firm, and I was on the phone just it's like the Boiler Room. You ever seen that movie, The Boiler Room? We were doing that, just on the phone, calling, and anyway, about a couple years later, we knew a guy that he was in the insurance industry, not too much older than us, but he had done very well, and that's when day trading really took off. And I remember the magazine article from Forbes. It had Chris Burke and Jeff Block of Block Trading, and the headline in Forbes was the those bandits. They're the guys that really started the day trading industry. And they had an office out of Houston. They had one in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I live, and they're like, they're talking about how they just make money in the markets. And this is like 1997. So we convinced this guy to give us some money, and we were going to, trade, a friend of mine and I. And next thing you know, fast forward a few years later, going into 99, we were the largest traders in Phoenix. We moved to Dallas, opened our own brokerage firm in Dallas and technology company called Centerpoint Securities. And we had developed a trading application, like a direct access trading application for banks, for individual investors and banks, because no one had you think about the way people trade nowadays. Back in 2000, 2001, people didn't have access. Like you couldn't. You sit at home and I forget what the name of the company was. It was like Web Trader. I forget what the name was. Somebody could probably tell me what it was. But every brokerage firm wanted that type of technology to give individual investors at home the opportunity to trade the markets. And we had built the technology to connect the two. Anyway, we were doing our roadshow September 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th in New York City of 2001 to every brokerage firm in Wall Street. And obviously September 11th, 2001 happened. And so after that, the industry dried up. We still ended up selling for pennies on the dollar to a firm out in Texas, and so that's how I ended up getting in the currency market, because they were focusing on not only the stock market but also in currencies in 2001, 2002, when it opened the door for individual traders to trade here in the United States, to trade currencies. So I had probably one of the most diverse, trading acumen at the time. So I was a guy that they wanted to have teach individual investors on how to trade the market. So that's how I really got my start into kind of the retail side of the business, because I'd had so much extensive experience in my 20s and early 30s. Not only trading for investors, but myself, and made a lot of money trading. So, so anyway, that's really, and then fast forward 25 years, and here I am. So
nice. All right,
Yeah.
Davin, go away with your questions. I know you got a lot more than me.
No, yeah, that's a really interesting start there. Our first question, I was just wondering, what kind of your market insights and your how your strategy is going to change in the next few weeks here with the news events that we have coming up. We have PMI at the beginning of November. We also have the elections coming up, and we also have the CPI coming up a little bit after that. What is kind of your market insights, and how are you planning on changing your strategy or keeping your strategy the same during for those news events?
Well, first of all, I heard you guys curse, so let me just start off.
Yeah, I said that it's PG-13 on
Yeah,
this.
apologies.
So we allow about like 5 to 10 curse words a show.
At my old age, I'm the grumpy old man now.
Let me just say, I don't give a shit about any of the data this next week. It could jolt the markets a little bit, but really everybody's going to be starting to position for the election now, and it's going to be big. Let me state that the liquidity is going to get really bad, and this is not my first rodeo, obviously, trading elections. But if you want a good analog of what we're looking at today versus what had happened in the past, go look at 2016, see how the FX market and markets responded in 2016, and you can imagine it going either direction. Obviously, like I said, the election is all I really care about at the moment, and that's all traders should care about at the moment, because it's going to have huge implications. Obviously, the market's trying to price in a Trump 2.0. And you can see it in, some crypto, in the crypto space. You can see Bitcoin kind of getting towards $70,000. Mexican pesos making shorts a little nervous. And to be honest and frank, a Trump 2.0 is going to have huge implications in the market. We could see massive dollar buying, not only into the election itself, but post-election, depending on if there's going to be a red wave or not with Congress. Because if he is elected and he has, congressional support, he's going to be able to be an absolute wrecking ball. And in a good, however you want to look at it, good or bad way, it's going to create a lot of volatility. Flip side is he's definitely not a 100% chance that he's going to win. People say it's a close race. The betting markets would say otherwise. Polls would say one thing. Betting markets say otherwise. I think there's a lot of potential for an upset. There's a lot of potential for two-way action. And I think if you're going to think it's one-way directional right after the election, I would beg to differ. And I think you have to watch your six, or otherwise watch your ass. Keep your stops tight. Don't go to sleep with positions thinking that you're gonna wake up the next day and it's gonna be great, because this election doesn't matter who wins. It's gonna be contested. It's going to be drug out. The longer it gets drug out, the more incites risk aversion. Risk aversion has it could rear all sorts of ugliness out of the market, whether it's yen strength, stock market weakness, gold strength. Gold could reverse on, flows. Who knows? It could be gnarly. And the dollar, it could be the linchpin of it all. So I'm just saying that it is going to be violent. And if you guys, we are traders, and as traders, I love volatility. I mean, we thrive off of it. So I'm excited for it, but at the same time, that means, you pare down your position sizes, you widen your stops, you brace for that type of volatility. But there's going to be a lot of money to be made. And there's one thing that I always like to tell people in these types of situations. Something I learned trading, for large firms over the last, when I first met Trent in person, I was trading for a, firm, and did so for about 4.5 years, basically trading unlimited amounts of capital at discretion. I'll just tell you this: it's okay to be wrong. It's just not okay to stay wrong. So, we all make mistakes. No one trades perfectly. Hell, I'm right maybe 50% of the time when I'm hot streaking. So knowing that just alone, if you're wrong, just get out. It might be the right idea, but the wrong time. So just get out, reassess. You can always get back in. That's what traders do. That's it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Bitcoin thing. When I was doing some research, because we always talk about news at the beginning of the show. When I was doing our research for the news today, I came across an article. It was a research price analysis of Bitcoin by the Standard Chartered Bank, and they pretty much did a price analysis of on election day and after election day for Bitcoin, and they said on election day they expect Bitcoin to be around $73,000, and then if Republicans sweep Congress, they expect it to go up to $125,000, and then if Harris wins and Democrats sweep Congress, it'll be around It'll stay around $75,000. Is the Standard Chartered Bank's price analysis on Bitcoin. So I thought that was very interesting.
That is interesting, and I'm going to use, there's a few instruments that I'm going to use that I might not even trade, but I'll be using them specifically for, what I'm going to do in the markets. And that is going to be the Mexican peso, the Canadian dollar, Bitcoin. And those are going to be like my real big indicators on whether I trade them or not, which I tend to trade the Mexican peso quite actively. But I think that's a very binary election indicator. Again, you don't have to be an FX trader to look at it, but in the most pragmatic way, if the Mexican peso is selling off, that means the dollar Mexican peso is rallying. That is indicating a Trump win. I mean, just because you got Trump's going to be really hard on on Mexico, tariffs wise, there's a new government and he's going to try to step all over Miss Scheinbaum or President Scheinbaum over there. So you imagine Mexican peso is just going to get demolished. And the flip side is if the peso is rallying, the market's starting to look at, hey, Harris might actually, pull this thing off. And we would see a big recovery in the Mexican peso. That means the dollar Mexican peso would drop quite aggressively. So that's a good binary, just a very pragmatic look at the markets, through the eyes of FX, in my opinion.
I'm curious, do you always trade the Mexican peso, or is it just now around the election due to that volatility that if Trump wins?
No, I always trade the peso. I'm a big peso trader. I've been trading peso quite extensively, probably the last decade or so, and I don't always have my hand in it because it is a high carry cost, especially if you're buying dollars, selling pesos. You're paying the cost to carry, but when things are going good and over the last 6 months, you could buy the peso and sit on it and, short everything else and carry a little interest. It is kind of nice, but it's a real good, because of its high beta moves. You can really, if you're an active trader, it's a good trading product for sure.
Nice. Before I get to my next question, we do have a question here on our live chat here. Someone was asking, what do you focus on more, fundamentals or technicals?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, I look at, if for anybody that's been following my work, and I've been doing live broadcasts for literally since 2002. We used to actually have a 15-second delay. So in other words, we called it an internet delay when I first started doing, live shows. People all over the world would listen, but it was a 15-second delay. I would say something and I'm like, okay, just, your charts are 15 seconds behind mine and you're hearing me 15 seconds late. And people that know my work know that my charts don't change. I've been looking at the same stuff for the entirety of my career. It's so basic, but it's what works for me. Right. Yeah. So do I look at charts? Does that factor into what I do? 100%. But the fundamentals, or what some people would call maybe the macro backdrop, or having some theme or idea of what to do, that is always my base case. So in other words, I always think about, like I'm a chess player and I'm playing chess against a lot of very skilled people. I'm always thinking 5-7 steps ahead, and I'm thinking from a macro point of view or a fundamental point of view, what I believe is to happen. And then I use my technical prowess, if you will, my, almost 3 decades of experience of looking at charts. I actually learned how to draw Fibonacci ratios with a protractor in my hand. So that shows you how I used to actually print them out. It would take me 3 hours to print out charts in 1998, like a fax machine. I'd have to print out 300 charts, and then I'd do all my Fibonacci work with a protractor. So the reason why I'm telling you that is because I use a chart like a map. And so if I have a fundamental or macro backdrop that I'm following, I use my charts to say, okay, well, how am I going to play into that theme? Where's going to be my best way to enter the market based on, I'm really a dollar bull, or, I'm a stock market bear. Where's going to be my best entry point? Then I'll use my technicals to figure that out.
Nice. Yeah.
That makes sense. I think a lot of traders these days do exactly that too. It's like you have to sort of pay attention to both, and just focusing on one or the other can get you into some sort of trouble.
Yeah, it's, first of all, let me say this. I can teach a monkey how to read charts. Anybody can read a chart. I mean, the most that's your low barrier to entry into the markets. And it's an argument that you're going to hear from a lot of people that don't have a lot of experience in the markets. They're going to tell you, well, price doesn't lie. It's like, no, it doesn't. But I can anticipate a move well before anybody else because I know what's driving the move. Or, I can anticipate a turn a lot quicker than anybody else in most cases, because I'm thinking about what's the driver behind what you're seeing, whether it's positioning, whether it's sentiment, whether it is you're in a simple retracement of a trend. How am I going to play back into that? Well, I have a strong case that it should play back into that trend. Why? For all the reasons I could, just rattle off and tell you. So again, most traders that I meet they're like, well, price doesn't lie. It's the charts. The charts are the charts, and the move is the move. There's a lot more to the markets than that. And when you figure that out, your profitability tends to go up a lot more, because you realize that you can actually, see the move happening in real time and knowing where the turns might be. And I think it's really eye-opening. But again, this isn't a 1 year process or 2 year process. This is I started in this business 28 years ago. So I mean, it's taken decades, and I'm always learning things. I'm always learning something new. I don't know everything, and every time I think I know everything, I'm quickly humbled by the market. So, and you're constantly learning how to practice best practices in risk management, because it all boils down to where you're entering. You can have the right idea, wrong time, like I said earlier.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned humble too, because you see that a lot, or I see a lot with traders. Like, having worked on the brokerage side and the back office, I get to see a lot of traders and how they trade, and you can see exactly that. Like, traders start getting on a win streak, especially new ones, and they're trading really small size, having a lot of winning trades, and all of a sudden they like quadruple their trading size and go all in on a trade, and then lose it, and then try to figure out, oh my gosh, what went wrong? It was because you got greedy and you didn't stay humbled, and the market is always going to humble you in that situation.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And so, one of the things that I've learned maybe over the last decade, I've become more efficient at, is learning that, when I'm streaking, like in a hot streak where I'm just on and I'm synced up with the market, I totally have really just and there are those times where you're just jiving with the market. You get it all. Those are the times that I usually am most cautious, and I have to start paring back my size. And a lot of people do the opposite. They get too aggressive. They get too cocky, and that's when they get humbled. And for me, I know that there is a point where I have to back away from the markets, where if I don't, I'm gonna get carried away, and I start being a little too loosey goosey with my, what the things that I'm looking at, and my rules, my risk management, and that's all part of the learning process. And I think if you talk to anybody that's been in the markets for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, they're going to tell you the exact same thing that I'm telling you is, we're always trying to polish our process and go back and look at our mistakes, because if I go back and I can realize I made this mistake because I did this, and this, the chances of me doing that again in the near future are much less. So, it's kind of like, I stick my hand in the fire and I'm like, ow, that was hot. I'm not going to do that again for a while. And you do that enough times and you're like, you make those mistakes less and less and less. That's why going back and critiquing your bad trades are so important, because you're not going to make that mistake next week or next month, while it's still fresh in your mind. And the more you do that with yourself, the less you make mistakes. And because we always do. We are humans by nature, and we all get stuck in FOMO. We all get stuck in, I'm too good, and I've got this market beat. Nothing can beat me now. And that could be nothing farther than the truth in that,
Nice. Yeah. We talked about kind of the micro, with coming up news and how the market's going to react to the next few weeks. But, how do you see the future of trading, and how do you see the landscape of trading evolve over the next, year or two, or even longer?
That's a great question. And I'm gonna say something that I recently heard from a friend of mine who trades out of New York for a big firm. He's like, man, I'm bullish on trading. And me too. And here's the reason why. We've been in this grind higher in risk for a long time. And I want to say that because of COVID, and the reaction of not only our central bank but other central banks, I think it postponed what I thought was going to happen 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, is going to be happening here soon. Probably post election, going into 2025 and beyond. And the head economist from Goldman Sachs said this week, David Kotak or Kostich or whatever the hell his last name is, he's like, I believe we're going to have 3% returns in the S&P for the next 10 years. And I personally think he's being a little bit too optimistic. I think we're going to be in a very, very rangy sideways market for the next decade. The boomers, if you will, and I'm not a boomer, I'm Generation X. I'm in my 50s, but my parents and that generation, or the boomer generation, they've stole from all of us, from Generation X and below. And this expansion in monetary policy and loose monetary policy for so many years since 2008. Thank you to Alan Greenspan and company and beyond, Janet Yellen, Bernanke, you name it, is probably going to put us in, a very, very large range where the S&P is trading from, call it 6,000 to maybe 4,500 for probably, what we might have a lost decade, what a lot of people are calling a lost decade. I thought it was going to happen, 2020, but COVID happened. So obviously that was, who would have anticipated that? And what we got is, this, balance sheets just ballooning around the globe, which obviously propelled the markets higher. But I do think that we are going to be in a range bound environment, which is phenomenal for traders. But if you're an investor, you're going to have to be really good at finding companies, being a stock picker. We haven't been stock pickers for 20 years. There are no stockbrokers. There's wealth managers. Wealth managers are all they do is they're sitting in a bank, at your local bank. You got a wealth manager that's sitting back there, probably making $150,000 a year. He looks at people's deposits when they come in. He's like, oh, this person has a $500,000 account over here, and they got $1 million account over here. So I'm going to sell them and try to bring them in. And then when I bring them in, I'm going to put them in these ETFs that just track the market. That shit ain't going to work anymore. It's not going to work. And we're going to have to be much better stock pickers and much better traders. So when you ask me, how do I feel about our industry in the years ahead? I'm very bullish on trading. I'm very bearish on investing.
I'm curious. I don't know if you look at the Stokes at all, but that reminds me literally of the Stokes, where it has not made a new high for the last 25 years. It's in 2000. It said its all-time high, and it's still below that.
Yeah, and I think that's a systematic issue of God. It's early in the morning here, but I'm trying to think of the proper term. And there's been a lot of talk about this in recent years. It is the whole world is following, just the ETF flow. It's like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm just going to put my money in, manage funds. Every algo, every fund follows the same prescription, right? And it's just it's crowded. And I'm not a person that doesn't believe in in humans, and I'm not a person that's going to tell you that, we're going to have a crash and, it's all going to hell in a handbasket. No, I believe in them. I believe in the United States. I believe in America. I believe in, human ingenuity. I believe that we are going to consistently be moving forward with space and technology and yada, yada, yada. But you're going to have to be really selective on where you're putting your money for a while,
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the past or the future. Now let's go into the past a little bit. BullRush, we have winners every single day since we run daily competitions. So we love to celebrate people's wins and everything. What are some of the, not necessarily the biggest risks you've taken that ended out turning profitable, but what's your biggest success in trading? What's the thing that you're the most proud of in your long, past few decades of trading? What's the one trade or one thing that you're the most proud of or your biggest success?
That's a good question. Most, well, I mean, I was long during the dot-com bubble, some really, really aggressive positions. Yeah. And so, that's what got me in my, got me my start. And I was young and dumb and didn't know what I was doing. So, I mean, I just, fell in. It's kind of like being in some meme coins, it'd be the same story 20 years later. So I'm sure a lot of people fell into that. But I wouldn't say that's most proud. I mean, I'm definitely not most proud of that. I was definitely most lucky. I think I can't really put my finger on. I mean, there's a couple where like there was a flash crash, and back in was it maybe 2012 or some 10. I happened to be short a bunch of yen pairs. I've traded the yen quite aggressively through interventions and when Miss Watanabe, and the carry trades unwound, where I've really called that right. During the 2008 financial crisis, I sat and told our community for 6 months prior. I'm like, look, if you own real estate, it was the big short, but I didn't know how to take advantage of it. But I feel pretty proud that I was like, just do the math. People can't afford, all these homes. They just can't, it just didn't make any sense. But like I said, I didn't know how to do the big short trade, which they obviously made movies about. But, I'd say I'm pretty proud of myself because I tend to put two and two together really well for our traders in our community. And I have over the years, and I've always guided them in the right direction. And that's why, I have traders that I've literally met in person that have been with me for 2 decades now, that, when people come into Scottsdale that are traders in our community, that we usually get together and we'll have drinks. And, if I'm out in New York or if I'm wherever I'm at, I've met a lot of people in person that consistently have been in my community for, like I said, some of them years, some of them decades. And so putting my finger on any one particular trade, it's hard to do, but I tend to be around for those big moves, which has been good.
And do you want to give your community a plug? I know you've been hard at it, and I subscribe a lot of times to it and tune in, but what do you actually do on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is ForexAnalytix?
Well, ForexAnalytix is an analytical platform, and yeah, thanks. It's an analytical platform that we provide analysis, pretty much 24 hours a day via mobile app, and of 30 different instruments, not just currencies. We have, the DAX and Boons and the 10-year and S&P and Bitcoin and other instruments, crude oil, gold, silver, that are in our 30 instruments that we follow. But the heartbeat of what we do is really in our chat room. And we have a really diverse team, over 10-man team, and a lot of analysts that are in our chat rooms all day that have decades of trading experience on trading floors, when trading floors actually did exist in London, and trading desks on yen desks for decades. We have traders like that are part of the ForexAnalytix team, and so we do that all day long. And then we have free broadcasts too. We have a free broadcast that Trent's very well aware of. We broadcast every single day, and a lot of the people that you see on CNBC or Bloomberg, we bring them on after we're done speaking for 30 minutes. We bring them on kind of like this, and we have a lot of great people that will only be on CNBC for 2 or 3 minutes. We'll have them on our face show. It's called the Face Show every single day, every trading day. And, like, for example, we have Melody Wright. She's a big real estate person. She's coming on Tuesday. And she's going to tell us, like all of our traders, about the future of, the U.S. real estate market from her point of view. And she's on a lot of, like, Blockworks podcasts and stuff like that. So, yeah. But we do a lot of that every day, and it's free. And so, yeah, we have a really great community. So thanks for asking.
Of course.
Nice. Of course. And we'll make sure we add a link to your website and your community down below in the description for this.
Thanks. Well, I love what you guys are doing here at BullRush, and I want to thank you for having me on as a guest.
Of course, thank you for coming on. I learned a lot, and I appreciate your insights there. And it was nice meeting you here.
And next time it's in Boca, you can meet in person.
Next time what?
There we go.
Boca.
Oh yeah. Next time in Boca, come by and we'll meet in person.
Well, I definitely will avoid your neck of the woods in the summer and during storm season.
It's actually nice right now.
Yeah, right now
it's like 70 degrees every morning right now, and like only gets up to 81, 82 Fahrenheit.
So everybody's wearing winter coats because it's 70 now in Florida.
Yeah, that's I live in Arizona. We're still in the 90s during the day, but right now it's in the 50s. So I even have a jacket or a vest on myself. So
nice. Yeah,
we are wussies when it's sub 65 degrees. We all wear mittens.
Same thing in Florida. Yeah. Everybody's wearing it. I'd say probably once it gets in the 70s to 60s, everybody's wearing winter coats and mittens and beanies and stuff. It's really fun. Yeah. I'm from Germany, so it gets really cold there. So when I first moved here and I would see people in winter coats, I was so like perplexed. Like, what are you guys doing?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. But it's great having you. I can't wait to speak again with you, and I hope you have a great day and happy trading today.
Yeah. Good luck over there at BullRush. You guys are doing some great stuff. So thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.